All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Berlin Select Board meeting, our first coffee talk of 2020. So thank you for joining. We are continuing to meet virtually only in light of COVID. Hopefully this will go away sometime soon and we can all meet in person. So our call to order is at 6:31. For announcements, the meetings of the Berlin Select Board are generally recorded for transmission on both the Berlin Cable Television Access Channel and YouTube. Your voice, image, and or telephone number may be recorded. So tonight we've got a bunch of great lineup for your viewing pleasure. I want to remind the folks that are in the audience, if you have a question, put your hand up. We'll call on you. I ask you because our agenda is rather packed to keep your questions concise and comments concise as well. There's Margaret. We will move, hi Margaret. We will move items along. Also remember that this is Coffee Talk. Scott and I and Chris can't debate on anything, maybe sometimes can't answer your questions. So please don't think that we're being rude and blowing you off. It's just that we can't, between the three of us and Mary, we'll get it recorded down on a piece of paper and we'll get it up on an upcoming agenda. So for the first item, last week, the 10th, we had Senator John Cronin and Representative Kilcoyne come to the select board just to give us an update on what was going on in terms of the legislature. So just a few highlights. Wanted to remind folks, there's lots of opportunities for COVID vaccines and boosters. So if you need it, definitely go get it. Stay safe. In terms of revenue cuts, Senator Cronin had said that there's really nothing huge that he sees coming, no huge decreases that they can see for right now, that there will be lots of opportunities to apply for different earmarks, one of them being the infrastructure that was passed by Congress a few months back. If I have it written down right, to Massachusetts, it looks like 4.2 million for highway and 1.1 for bridges, which is nice. We have a few bridges in town that we've talked about that may need some help. So we can look at putting money that way. Little fun fact, when the town had voted a few months back to extend Chief Clark past 65 and we needed to have it go before the legislature, Meg was telling us that that was one of the first bills that were signed by that. So woohoo, yay on that. But then the flip side, we had also asked, it was Scott or Chris, maybe Chris, that had asked about an update on the other item that you folks had passed at town meeting in regard to additional liquor licenses. Unfortunately, that process is moving a little bit slower. Representative Kilcoyne indicated that at some point we, the board will need to sign a letter kind of pushing it through in our intent. So for now, that's really not going too far and moving along. And I don't want to steal the whole ARPA thunder and fundings coming to the town. So I will let Chief Clark and Victoria, our COA director and Board of Health, Paul McKelk, who are all in the audience, start to talk about that. So I wanted to whiz through. Scott, Chris, anything that you can think of that I went overly quickly on and one thing, due to rezoning, we will be losing Senator Cronin as our guy, but we will be assigned to Senator Harriet Chandler as of November. So when that happens and that's all good, we'll get her on an agenda to come to the selectmen, have a chit chat with us. And then at the next available coffee talk, hopefully we can invite her and she can just come on in and say hi to the town of Berlin. All right. I miss anything? Major?
I don't think so. Good job.
No.
All right.
That was pretty good.
Okay, so first up on our agenda of distinguished guests tonight, as I mentioned, were Chief Clark, Victoria, if she is in the audience. So Mary, if you could promote, or someone can promote Chief Clark, and Paul McKelk. Oh, and there's Victoria to come on up, talk to us. I know that Victoria has been kind enough to share some information out on the town website regarding COVID testing and availability tests. So I will let them talk about that. And again, if you've got a question, put your hand up between all of us here. Chris, myself, Scott, Margaret, Mary will be able to see you and call you out and have you come on down and ask a question. Oh, I see Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, and there's Paul. And Chief Clark. Is he coming? Yep. We can bring on Chief Clark down to the big table. So Victoria, while we're waiting for Chief Clark to come on down, do you want to start it a little bit just to give you enough time? I know that we have a packed agenda. So, you know, the 5 minutes that I took, I will gladly give my other 10 to you.
Yeah, sure. I'll let Paul kind of do most of the, Paul is pretty much the lead on this. But what I can say at this point is we are looking to do a drive-through once we do procure these COVID tests. And Paul and Chief Clark will talk more about that. And that the Council on Aging, social services side of it, is working to help create a list for those who may need a delivery of the tests. We are asking that anybody who cannot come to the fire station, which is what we are deeming an appropriate testing site, appropriate gathering site for the kits. So anybody who can't come there in person, we are asking people to let us know. They can call me at 838-2750, or they can email me at COA director at Town of Berlin, and then we would put their name down and we would be able to deliver kits. So like I said, Paul and the Board of Health and Chief Clark are more the leads on this than I am. So once they get fully into it, they can explain, especially Paul can explain the procurement of said tests, but I can at least let you know for that portion of it. But we have been able to meet, we've met twice already, and we've been able to get, you know, a pretty good rough draft of a plan going. It's just some variables are out of our control. So here's Paul.
Oh, you're on mute.
Mute.
Nope.
There you go.
Now try.
Okay, you can hear me now? All right.
You got it.
I'm going to start with a spoiler alert that the town does not currently have any test kits. We are in a research and shopping mode. We have found prices that frankly, some are exorbitant, and the prices that are reasonable. There are quantity issues, and we are working with the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health to bundle a sizable package so that we can take advantage of good pricing. Pricing will not stop us from getting kits, but in our due diligence, it is an important consideration, because going forward, frankly, nobody knows if 3 or 4 months from now, we may have to be going out for more kits. To this point in time, we've discovered that shelf life on kits is approximately 3 months. So that has to be taken into consideration when we are moving forward with this. In the meantime, we certainly encourage the public to take advantage of whatever governmental offers are out there to get some initial test kits for their own homes. And I would like to think that we would be in a position to do something to give more specific information on actually having kits within the next several weeks. We've been finding that some of the manufacturers are really slow to respond. The federal government's demand is probably affecting things in terms of what we are hearing in terms of availability. And frankly, there are just more questions than answers at this point. And if you follow the news or read the paper, I think that kind of indicates the same sort of situation. Chief Clark, Victoria, and myself have met we are pretty comfortable that once we have our hands on kits, that we have a delivery program that will work and work well, identifying the most needy population initially. And as Victoria alluded to, we will be having a drive-through, will require tickets. And I don't want to make it sound complicated because it will not be, but it needs to be controlled at the same time. We don't need people asking for more kits than what they need. I mean, one of the realities that we're looking at is some people just by their own nature are probably going to over-test and burn through kits. You know, if you've been exposed, we recommend that you wait if you think you've been exposed, you should wait 5 days before even testing the first time, and not the very next morning, because the results are going to be erroneous and you're going to be wasting a good test kit that you may need or someone else may need in the future. In terms of identifying who will be getting the test kits, we're looking at seniors, people with the initial outlay will be seniors, people with comorbidities, and children under 5. There's still some speculation and conjecture about, does the kit work on someone under 2? So there's a considerable amount of research that's required, and trying to decipher what's real and what isn't with all the information that's out there. Victoria, we've identified that at, say, Northbrook 2, the manager there will handle distribution. Northbrook 1 and other places, we are working in conjunction with Victoria and Chief Clark. We're prepared to do deliveries. Chief Clark has personnel, the Board of Health has personnel that we can drive people around and deliver kits to the people that can't get out of their homes. Where I'm really pleased with the meetings that Chief Clark, Victoria, and I have had in terms of being able to make sure that our residents do get kits. Other than that, I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. We're in the shopping mode, trying to get the best value for the town, but we will not put value ahead of safety. It's just that there's so many different numbers out there. It takes a while to process through them all. Victoria or Chief Clark, if you have something you want to add, please.
Oh, Chief, you're
Or
muted.
any questions?
And if anyone in the audience has a question on this, I know that I have one. I'll wait to see if anybody comes up from the audience with a question.
I simply want to thank Victoria, Paul, and Chief Clark for continually working on this since the Select Board and Finance Committee approved the funding. I know it's been a lot of work, and I just want to express our appreciation for your work on this.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'll ask the first question. So I've seen lately, either out on Facebook or have been getting texts from friends that the post office now you can register through them and they'll deliver kits. So I guess my first question is it legit? If you guys know, and you know, if you order a kit online, can you still call up Victoria and say, hey, put me down? Or do you kind of sort of take yourself off the list as, you know, an honesty thing that I already have them and I don't need them, so take mine and give them elsewhere?
I can't comment on the post office. I'm unaware of that.
Oh, I can.
situation.
Oh, there you go.
To
Thank
my
you, Mary.
Yes, so I got this link myself the other day. So this link, along with the other link that has been making the rounds, I believe are actually like the same registration system. So I guess what's going on is that the federal government is using the post office to deliver these free COVID
Oh,
kits to the
okay.
to people. I attended a meeting yesterday with EOEA, and the one thing that they said is for anybody who lives in a dwelling that has multiple like apartments or units or anything like that, you need to make sure that your apartment unit number, whatever, is clearly marked in your address, because what's happening is that if, say, for example, you have you forget that and somebody else has already registered and also forgets their apartment number, people are losing out on their test kits because they're saying, well, your 4 test kits have been claimed. You can't have multiple people claiming test kits for the same address. So yes, it is legit. Like I said, I believe what will happen is that there's a second website that goes on, and it's on the Facebook page. If you register for one and you try to register for the other, I believe you're going to bounce and they're going to say, no, you've already registered. But yes, they both work, to my knowledge.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for pulling that up.
Thanks, Mary. And then in terms of our kits, at this point, I haven't heard of that to be a disqualifier for somebody in town. We are asking people though, like, you know, again, consciousness here, that if you don't want a kit, and again, we would never, you know, mandate that somebody takes it, but if you're not interested or you feel like it could benefit somebody else, please let us know. We've actually already had a family tell us that they are all set and to please pass their kit forward. So, you know, we have gotten those requests as well.
Anybody from the audience that can chime in or wants to chime in? Meg, I see that you snuck in, not to put you on the spot, but I will because, well, I can. Is there anything from the legislator side that maybe you may be aware of that's coming that you could share with us? You know, feel free to say no. I know I just like, you know, tackled you out of the blue, but figured I'd take advantage while you were here.
Hold on. Let me just
Sure.
get myself situated here. I apologize for being late. I was wrapping up a meeting at 6 and I was trying to sort of sneak away, and then you had to say a few words. So I ended up being extended a few minutes, but I'm happy to be here now. And Peg, I didn't catch that last question because it was kind of putting me on the panel.
Yeah, it was. So Meg, I just didn't know if you knew any additional information that you could share in regard to the delivery of kits or anything that the state might be doing to assist towns. As you know, Paul had mentioned earlier, you know, people are kind of going out and price shopping, and some are super exorbitant and others, you know, not so much. Didn't know if there was anything that you could shed on that.
So I think, you know, for the short-term goals, you know, if the town or anybody in the audience is having trouble in terms of accessing any of the the testing kits that will be sent directly to them, let us know. We'd happy to try to find out if there's a problem or use our contacts to figure out what's going on there. Now, long-term, I do have some good news on that front. We did just passed yesterday a supplemental budget in the House that is going to allocate about $30 million towards expanding COVID testing. So this means that in addition to some of the rapid tests that we've been relying on, we hopefully will see some of these testing sites regionally be able to kind of handle the demand that we've seen. Now, I know, you know, for myself, as many of us were either exposed to COVID or had symptoms or had COVID themselves during this Omicron surge, and it was incredibly difficult to get tested. I myself went over to the Marlboro site, the drive-through center, and couldn't even get in right after Christmas. And I did relay those concerns directly to the administration, because if I was having that issue, then I knew that many of us were here as well. And like you said earlier, Peg, the rapid tests are convenient, but can be incredibly expensive. And not everybody has the means or budget to be able to get a huge supply of testing kits when they're about $23 a pop. You know, I think I have to still fill out my form to get my 4 tests delivered. I think I had a couple over Christmas. I had like 3 and everywhere was sold out. So I was, trying to only use those testings if I actually did develop symptoms. So I think the goal is, rapid tests are great, but if you can't afford them, they're not going to be useful for what they are intended to do, which is to measure if you are, contagious with COVID. So the hope is with that money, it is only $30 million, but it will hopefully create a more robust testing, facility around the state, including our area. So in addition to those rapid tests, they'll have other options that are free of charge available to us here. I think that, in the speeches that were made yesterday before the bill was voted on, I think an important point to remember is that we saw over the last 6 months sort of a shift in priorities. And I mean, this is a pandemic, so we're trying to figure this out as we go, but the emphasis was really on vaccinations and expanding access to those, which is obviously incredibly important. But I think that there was not an awareness that we had to kind of continue emphasizing testing as well. Now we know that we need both those tools in our arsenal to really try to deal with this pandemic. So this is kind of a reflection of a reassessment of those priorities to make sure that not only are we investing in vaccine access and making sure people have access to those that want it and need it, but people have access to tests as well. And I think just checking my notes quickly here, some money will actually also go to expanding vaccination access for children, as now we're seeing some of those ages 5 to 11 be eligible for the vaccines. So I know for a lot of parents who, are trying to get their kids through school, that's, an important aspect to try to get your kids vaccinated. And 25 million towards increasing access and making sure families and residents have protective masks, especially those that are in schools. So this whole bill, I think it was about 55 million. It's gonna try to go towards alleviating some of the pressure points we've seen with the pandemic, primarily concerning access to masks. And by masks, we're talking about N95s, the ones that tend to be the most safe and protective against COVID, testing and vaccines. So that's kind of like So to your question, we fortunately have done something in the last 24 hours that will hopefully kind of help towards these issues that we're talking about tonight.
No, I appreciate that, Megan, and thanks for coming on, because I know that there's been, since Victoria posted the information about the tests, and then I pushed it, and I think Chief Clark pushed it out with his, fire page, that there's been a lot of questions and people wanting additional information. So I'm glad that, you're all here to say, it's coming, here's an option, USPS, I don't know how long it would take to get to someone, but at least that there's options out there, and that the state also has, the residents back and is trying to push it through to make sure that we're all okay and we're all safe as much as we can be.
Yeah. And I mean, there is the DPH testing site in Marlboro, which should be for most people in Berlin about 5 to 10 minutes away, maybe 15. Like I said, post-Christmas, it was quite crowded. So I'm hoping that may not be the case anymore, but that is free of charge. It's a drive-through PCR test. I know, I have some family in Berlin. I know they used it and they had some success with it as well. So, I mean, if rapid tests are not available, there are some options there, and hopefully, help is on the way to kind of make sure those options continue to grow for people in our area.
Awesome. Scott, Chris, any questions while we still have Meg and the COVID people up on the front screen before we let them go?
No, I think everybody's given quite a bit of information, so.
Yes.
Yep, and good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Any questions from the audience before we move on to our next session? Not that you can't ask questions later, but I figured while the 4 people here in the know, we'd be able to get to them.
I just want to share a quick message. Mary Porter indicated that she had gotten the link to the U.S. Postal Service order site, and she ordered the test kits, and she has received confirmation that the test kits are being shipped. So that is an option.
Okay.
And the delivery method, again, if you are not a senior, but you have, as Paul mentioned, like comorbidities or you're homebound or something like that, we can do the delivery of the tests.
Perfect.
So.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Victoria, Paul, Meg, Chief Clark, thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you're doing to keep us safe as possible. And definitely folks in the audience, those who are watching on playback, make sure you reach out and ask. Don't try to go this alone. You've got plenty of people to help you. Cool. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. So running a whopping 4 minutes ahead. Next up is Susan Henry, and I didn't see if Adam Wilbur and Mike Topman were in the audience, but they are here to talk to us and share some information on the November 2022 Regional School Committee process, election process. So if we can bring, who's in the audience? Oh, here comes Susan. Susan, did you bring anybody with you?
Well, I tried to. My understanding is that Mike Topman was going to be joining, but I'm ready to proceed if he doesn't show up. And if he does show up, then he can take
Let him in.
my microphone.
Nope, the floor is yours. So we'll give you till around 7:15 or thereabouts, and off you go.
All right. Well, I hope this isn't boring for you because you've heard this
No,
already.
no, it's all good.
We have to keep repeating it.
Can I just check real quick? Are we cutting our representative go?
Yeah, we can let Meg go back into the
yeah.
audience. We're good. We know how to find her if we need her.
Okay.
Thanks, Meg.
Thanks, Meg.
Happy to hang around too, just in case people have questions at the end or something. So I'll stick around in the audience.
All right, will do. And note my Town of Berlin cup,
Oh,
just
that's
saying, for
cool.
my tea, just saying.
Nice.
Remember, this is what the Hearst House used to look like, just saying. Okay, all right. Go ahead, Susan.
And will look like again at some point.
This is true.
Go. Well, we just wanted to talk about the first regional school committee election coming in November, along with the biennial state election. We want to talk about this a lot between now and then because it's a new process. It's going to feel very unfamiliar to a lot of people, and we anticipate people to have a lot of questions, either as voters or as potential candidates. So we really want to get some conversations going about this, and we'll be repeating information as much as we can. This election is not part of the usual town elections in May. It's part of the state elections in November 8th. And at this first regional school committee election, all 6 seats on the school committee will be open at the same time. That's never happened, and it will never happen again, most likely, because at this election in November, half this, 2 of the 3 Berlin seats are 2-year positions and 1 is a 4-year position. And on the Boylston side, 2 of the seats are 4-year positions and 1 of the seats is 2-year position. So after this first election, the school committee seats will come up for election on a staggered term, and every position there on out will be 4-year terms. That's also different. One of the things that's different about this as well is that Berlin residents will be voting for all 6 seats. They don't just vote for the Berlin representatives. They vote for everybody on that regional committee. So they need to get to know the people who are running in Boylston as well as the people running in Berlin. And conversely, Boylston needs to get to know the candidates who are running from this town. They all are your representatives because this is a regional election. This is a regional district now. So we have to stop thinking about, calling up our Berlin representatives and feeling free to call any one of our 6 representatives on the school committee when we have questions or concerns. When you run for school committee, you should be able to take out nomination papers around the end of April. And then you have to collect signatures, a certain number of signatures, something like 30 or something, and then take your nomination papers back to the town clerk by, I think it's mid-July or end of July. So you might think that you have longer to do that since the election's not till November. So it's important to be aware of getting those nomination papers and getting them back to the town clerk by July. most people from the other districts who we've talked with, most people tend to get their signatures for the nomination papers right in their own town and then just take it back to their town clerk. That's the simplest way to do that. You don't need that many signatures. But you can also collect signatures in Boylston. The key to understand here is that any signatures you collect in Berlin need to be on Berlin papers from the Berlin town clerk and need to go back to the Berlin town clerk, because the Berlin signatures are the only ones that Eloise can verify. And if you're collecting Boylston signatures, you need to have papers from the Boylston town clerk and have those signatures on separate papers. They then go back to Don Porter in Boylston for verification. So there's some stickiness in getting signatures in both towns, but you certainly can do that. Most people, I think, will find it easier to collect signatures right in their own hometown and get that part done. But once you've submitted those papers, you then want, of course, to get to be known and get to talk with people in both towns, because both towns are voting for you if you're a candidate. So it's no longer just a town election, it's a regional election. So it really opens up the process. So it's just a reminder that to complete the local elections, you go to your May elections as usual, and then you got to make sure to go down to the November elections, the state biennial elections, to vote for school committee. There's some very important work coming to the school committee in this next school committee period that I think should be of interest to a lot of people. It shouldn't be a narrow race. We should have a lot of people running for these seats. There's important work to be done in the coming stretch of time, and we want people who are really interested and committed to doing that work well and working as a team on the school committee to accomplish good things. For example, the next a new district improvement plan will be developed during that period, and that's a significant policy document for the schools and for the town, really, because it sets the direction for the school district for the next 5 years, and then it details budgetary items when they decide on a direction, certain new programs or whatever that they want to pursue. New personnel in that period, they also cost that out, and the one of the school committee's big jobs is to oversee the budget. So that district improvement plan helps specify where the district is going to head and how much it's going to cost to get there, and then they're responsible for also working with the district administration and FinCom to negotiate the best ways to accomplish those goals financially. Also, the superintendent's contract will expire in 2025, and the Berlin-Boylston Education Association contract also expires in 2025. So there's some significant new contracts to negotiate. Also has huge budgetary implications, but it also has enormous implications for the quality of teaching and learning in Berlin-Boylston. So I think it's really sort of an exciting time to get onto school committee, because there's so much good work that's coming up. You can really feel like you're making a difference, and we hope to have a widespread of interest in these positions. We will be posting a frequently asked questions document on the district website and trying to get that out. We want community groups to link up to that on the website so people can get quick access to basic information for candidates, basic information for voters about this election. And we consider that document to be a living document. So as we hear more questions from people, we'll update that document to reflect those questions and give our best answers to those as we can. We have a committee meeting at the April school committee meeting. I forget what the date is. I think it's April 8th, it's early in April. The first part of that school committee meeting will be given to a public forum for the school committee to talk with the public a little bit about what the role of school committee is like, to give information about the election and to take questions and answers at the beginning of that meeting. And we anticipate that, we hope, other groups will set up candidate forums and, have places for invite the candidates to come and talk to the public about why they're running and what they feel, how they feel they can make a difference. And we can't do that as school committee members, because that would really pose a conflict of interest for us, because there will be a number of current school committee members who will also be running. So we don't want to be in the position of running a forum. We do want to invite any other public groups to organize those and invite candidates to those and facilitate those question and answer sessions. That would be really a helpful contribution to the town. I think that's the core. If I've forgotten anything, please chime in, or if you have new questions since we last talked, or anyone in the audience has questions, I'm happy to see if I can answer them.
Yeah, so definitely open up. We certainly have enough time for folks from the audience to talk to Susan and ask her questions about this election. It is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So I want to make sure that, if you're thinking, might be a possibility, get your questions out there to Susan so that we can have as many folks as possible, running for the committee as well.
Yeah.
So Susan, there would never not be anybody from Berlin, correct? Let's say that, well, all right, I take that back.
There are always 3 seats for
So there's
Berlin.
always 3 seats. So making it up, no one from Berlin decides to run. So then it's not 6 seats would go to Boylston, 3 seats go to Berlin, 3 seats stay vacant because those are for us.
That's correct. And then,
Okay.
Post-election, those seats can be appointed by the school committee. If somebody decides they'd like to fill that vacancy,
Mhm.
post-election, they can apply to the school committee and be interviewed by the school committee and be considered to be appointed to fill those openings.
Okay. And any special qualifications, or it's just because I want to make a difference and help out my town that I'm deciding to run? No, I'm not deciding.
You have to be at least 18.
Okay.
And, or over 18, you'd have to check with Eloise on that, and then a resident of the town.
Okay.
Other than that, no, you need to be ready.
Special requirements.
No, you should be able to work with a team because it is a committee. And you have to be patient because it takes a little while to learn the role. As you know, stepping into any town committee or any town position takes a while to learn the role.
Have you had a chance to talk to Boylston and kind of what's their feedback? What are people thinking? Good, bad, indifferent, nothing yet?
It's too soon to say. We've only really talked with the selectmen there. Where we have the school committee has just appointed liaisons to all the school groups, like the PTOs and so on. And they'll be bringing information to those groups. I imagine there'll be more discussion there. And there are plans to, put out press releases and to get information posted on the site, district site, so people can link up to it.
Okay. Well, Chris, it's only fair, and I tagged Meg and put her on the spot that, you're the liaison. So, Tag, you're it. Is there anything that you can present to us or share with us, or still too new for you as the liaison to the school committee?
As far as the election?
Or just anything in
interest
general?
running?
Yeah, a little bit of both, if you
Well,
have anything.
I've always said that if you're going to be on a committee, it's better not to have an agenda, because you have to get the majority of the people on the committee to vote in favor of that. And it could be very disappointing. You really do need to be able to work with people on a committee. And I think that's your best bet.
I think
And
the
having
other thing The other thing you said to me the other day, Chris, was that you need to be able to represent all the children, all the
Yes.
students, not just
Absolutely.
you know, or the loudest parents, but the whole diversity of families
Right.
in your town.
And the ones that are staying home and are not at the meetings are the ones that I guess are, you could probably consider happy. And they're not going to come to the meeting because they don't have a complaint
Mhm.
about, you know, certain subjects.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have to remember that you represent everyone, you know, not just your friends, not just your own kids, but everyone.
Yeah, I think that's so critical.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, as folks take away, you know, from this and start thinking, go, oh, I wish I had asked, you know, please feel free to email the board and we'll figure out how to get it to Susan and, you know, start communication that way. So, you know, absolutely, again, it's just new territory for both towns to wander into. So the more informed that we can make you, then the better decision that you might make to say, yep, you know, toss my hat into the ring, I'm in.
Yeah, and my email address and all the school committee members' addresses are on the district webpage under the school committee menu. So
Okay.
easy to find us.
Awesome.
My
Well,
phone number's in the books too.
Yeah.
So,
Yep,
Yeah, and
That's
you
how
know
I
what?
got a
And
hold of you.
that's right. And you know, Susan, we know people that know how to get in touch with you, so no one can hide. Just saying.
We appreciate
Scott,
being
anything?
here, and you know, we do hope we hear questions because that really informs how to clarify this information for people. All right, it's hard to
Yeah.
know when people ask their questions.
Right.
Yeah, Susan, definitely. And if there's a way to share any of Boylston's concerns with the Berlin folks as well, because I'm sure that thought processes are extremely similar. So if there's anything that Boylston's doing, please share with us, and then vice versa. You know, if there's anything that Berlin can share with Boylston, so that, you know, as Chris said, everyone's in sync, everyone's working together. Out of the gate, you know, this committee is going to be off and running instead of trying to
Yeah.
figure out who's doing what.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. We will
Okay.
make every effort in that direction.
And
Awesome.
and every thanks to all the members on the school committee,
Mhm.
you know, for giving their time and you know, being very thoughtful about their decisions.
Thank you. I will pass
Hawkins?
that on. And I think I'm appreciative of everybody on the school committee during COVID. It's a very stressful time to be on the school committee. So I do extend my appreciation also to everybody serving.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there are no great answers when it comes to the COVID stuff right now. Someone will beat you up no matter what your answer is. And I think the school board does a good and I think tough job is trying to find how do you, they spend a majority of our tax dollars go to schools and education, which is a good thing. But how do you balance, you know, the making sure our kids are getting good, top quality education, the facilities are something to be proud of as a town, and not, you know, and respecting that none of us are all made of money and how to limit the tax stuff. And
Right.
and it is tough, and people who run on the school board can help influence where that balance is.
That's right. That's a good way to say it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Susan. I appreciate you coming and sharing, and we will definitely be in touch if folks reach out to us. And as we said, you know, come back to the selectmen, you know, at least once a quarter. We'll
Yes,
throw
great.
you on an agenda somewhere
Yeah,
and
that's great.
let us know what's going on. And then obviously with Chris as our liaison, she'll keep us up to date as well.
Yep, that's
Yep.
great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
I'll
stopping
be
in,
in
Susan.
touch.
Take
Yep.
care.
All right.
Chris.
Thank you. All right. So next up, look at this, it's 7:15. We are just chugging on time. Is our traffic advisory committee. And I see Chief oh, there he is. There he comes. So for those who have not met our our police chief, I would like to introduce you to Chief Eric Sharner.
Thank you.
So, you know, Chief, I don't see Fred in the audience, so basically he bailed on you. So,
No, I'm sure he's coming in. I'm sure he's coming. We
Yeah.
talked earlier.
yep. So if you want to just kind of like start out, tell folks what it is, you know, why you're here, what you're doing, how you've listened to them, where you guys are going, the floor is yours.
All right, so the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee I've been on since November. The main focus since November has been parking regulations and a couple of speeding complaints. The parking regulations, I think we pretty much buttoned up last night or yesterday evening at our Zoom meeting, which everybody can see. It's online. We did table the vote for a month because there is some changes in the parking regulations for the town, which in the 26 years I've been here, pretty much there was no on-street parking in the wintertime. But these parking regulations are 12 months out of the year, 365 days. So I think a lot of people should look at them. We did make a modification to the parking on the sidewalk aspect of it. We have small portions of sidewalks that aren't elevated or raised or delineated, where you might not know you're parking in a sidewalk, especially like in the center of town or on Carter Street. So we did change that a little bit to accommodate those two areas until the day comes when we do have actual sidewalks with a raised granite curb and pavement and up to code. As far as the speeding complaints go, prior to my arrival, Chief Galvin had ordered some traffic speed signs, which we have got all three. We bought 4. One has a defect and it needs to go back. But we have 3 mounted up right now, 2 on Carter Street and 1 on Central Street near Pleasant Street. According to last night's meeting, the ones on Carter Street seem to have improved traffic significantly or greatly, slowing people down, which is a plus. Of course, with this committee, we've gotten some requests to move some speed signs as well. Obviously, we have to look into the legalities of how much authority we do have as a town to move speed signs, whether it be 100 feet or 200 feet. We're not talking quarter mile, half mile, or rezoning areas. We're looking at moving signs to be a little bit more appropriate rather than in an intersection. How about 200 feet before the intersection, we put the 20-mile-an-hour zone sign. Yeah, we have those up. I'm trying to collect the data off of the laptop that I have. I have a feeling the laptop is a little bit outdated for the new technology. So I'm going to work with CM Geeks now. I did work with a company to get some tech support, and it worked here when I had Wi-Fi connection. The Bluetooth worked, but when I don't have Wi-Fi connection, the Bluetooth doesn't work for some reason. So I'm going to work with CM Geeks so I can actually download the traffic data and actually find out how many cars are going north and south on Carter Street and get their average speeds and see where we're at. But we're definitely open. These signs are movable. It's not the easiest thing, but it's doable. The highway department's been phenomenal in helping us do it. And, we change the batteries weekly in them because in order to make them solar, they need to be permanently mounted, which is a significant price to get them permanently mounted. So, we're open for suggestions of where to put them, and we want the residents' input rather than us deciding where they're going to go. We want to hear from the people where they want them.
So Chief, the data that you're collecting off those signs, is it just amount of traffic going one way and another way and how quickly everyone's moving, or are there other items that it collects?
The data will only tell me how many cars and what their speeds are at. And of course, it will give me an average of the speeds on those roads.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure, you were there when Chief Galvin was around, and, these topics would come up at Coffee Talk, and it would be the folks that live on Pleasant would stick their hand up, and the folks that live on Lancaster Road would pick their hands up, and the folks on Highland Street would pick their hands up and say, hey, we seem to have the speed demons on our road. So if people are interested in that or want to talk to you, best way is just to reach out to you at your town email or come on down and have a visit.
The office. Yeah, phone calls. I got a phone call from a resident on West Street yesterday. So I have that area on my list for one of the signs to go to the next stop. But definitely open for it. I don't want to be the one that dictates where these signs go. I'd rather have people tell us where they want them and be more than happy to get them around town.
Well, I'm gonna throw Lyman in the mix. You know, as I've always said, if you guys could just come sit in the driveway with me all summer long, any Berlin financial woes, we'll get it taken care of with that. You know, I feel like I'm turning into my mother and father, sitting in the front lawn, you know, when it's nice out, yelling, "Could you go any faster?" So, yeah. we've got
Yeah, I've actually had a few residents tell me there's, I haven't read the legislation, but apparently there's legislation in the state house now. It's gonna allow the select board to change speed limits without going through,
Really?
without going through Mass DOT.
Oof.
Which is the, you know, and like, I just want to caution people, like when they want to change their speed limits. I know I was part of one probably 15 years ago. And actually Ted Kennedy's office got involved with it. They wanted the road to be posted at 25. Well, we did our legal way of monitoring traffic. And the state said, okay, give us your data. We gave them the data. It's all right, post it at 45. So it actually backfired. It turned out to be the average speed of the cars. And it wasn't what we wanted. So we kind of went back to the unposted and left it at the 40.
So, let's see, anybody in the audience? Nope. So, Eric, I'm going to ask you, there's always seems to be quite a bit of chatter all over, you know, the Berlin Facebook page, Neighbors Connect, Berlin Neighbors Connect page regarding traffic coming out of Gates Pond and trying to go left, you know, up 62. We all know it's a state road. We all know that there's a light right there at 495. So, you know, you've got about this much room to get out of Gates Pond onto 62. But any thought about what can be done? Because that gets to be quite busy, and I give credit to people who dare to turn left out of Gates Pond. You know, any way to make that a right turn only. But then I'm thinking, kind of like, you know, you said, it might backfire because people are going to go right and they're going to go into the Dunkin' Donuts driveway and they're going to turn around and they're going to come back up the road. So
Yeah, for
anything
for every action is a reaction. And and I've joked for years about that intersection. We throw rotaries and roundabouts all over the place where you don't even think they need to be. And that is the classic example of where a roundabout should be.
Yep.
You know, there's no doubt in my mind that that whole intersection should have been a roundabout versus an intersection. It's, I mean, even in the cruiser, even coming out with lights, I mean, to cross over 5 lanes gets pretty dangerous. And even with lights going, especially with people on their cell phones, distracted. You know, we've definitely seen a huge increase in accidents over there in the last couple of years, especially not to say post-COVID, but you know, post coming back to work. You know, I mean, we obviously went 6 months with nobody on the roads, but once they came back, I can probably think of 6 accidents off the top of my head, probably in the last 6 months, just at the one intersection.
Is there anything that can be done, you know, CMRPC, some other traffic study? As I said, I know it's a state road, so everyone's like, put up a light, put up a sign. And, you know, it's just not that easy. You know, you can't, because I'm sure if we could, everyone would be out there digging, you know, to get up a sign.
Yeah, from what I'm told is the state is final on it. But that's what I was told when the project was finished, that this is final from the state. But
Really?
I think we still need to maybe I'll make that a point next week to call in the Mass DOT and see if I can meet with an engineer, and I'll pull the data for the accidents. And I mean, the last issue we had, one lane stopped and the girl went, but the second lane didn't, and T-boned her. And I mean, like I said, we've seen some pretty significant accidents there. I mean, I think over the years, since that whole area's been done, seen some pretty significant accidents in that area.
Oh, Eric, I think what you got to do is say, meet me at the corner of Gates Pond and see how long it takes you to get across.
Yeah. I'll send them down River Road and come up Gates Pond. Yeah.
Exactly. Tell them all the main roads to the town offices are closed and send them down that route and see how quickly that they get around. All right. But I mean, we've got a ton of time. There's a phone number in the audience. I don't know if that's Fred or not. With that. But, for the folks that are here, what are your concerns with traffic? What can Eric bring back to the Traffic Safety Committee, for his thoughts, whether it's, you got to stop speeding down my lane, you got to, change the speed limit, whatever. Again, this is your forum to jump on in and, ask Chief Shartner the questions, for this. Because again, it's easy to put them online. But if you want to, stand up and have some action, the floor is yours.
There you go.
Okay, we got two. So Mr. Blair, I'll bring him up to the front and then we can bring up Rebecca right after him. But Mr. Blair, the floor is yours.
Just a quick comment and question. I've heard it asked before, but I think of it every time I get to it. As I'm coming along Pleasant, go past Cordelia's and then the cemetery, I always turn right on Sawyer Hill because I live up that way. I get to the end of that little jog and there's a stop sign, which is a good thing to have, but there's also a no left turn. You can't U-turn and go back toward the South Berlin Rotary at that point. I don't understand why. I don't know why that was established that way. And it doesn't make yeah, right, Scott. It doesn't make a ton of sense.
So that was a couple DPW directors ago, and the chief, and I believe that the no left turn was to stop the tractor trailers from making U-turns there. I believe
Now they just make them on South Street.
Yeah, exactly. Instead, they go down Crosby and get stuck in the field on South Street.
No, they go up through this. They go up through the cemetery and hang a left and come out the other road.
Yeah.
I never quite understood that no left turn, other than I believe it was to deter tractor trailers. I would have no issue whatsoever if the board wanted that sign to come down, and Fred and I can repurpose it somewhere else, maybe on Gates Pond Road.
Yeah.
That,
Well, I just throw it out there, and I think Scott agrees.
Yeah, I've just never seen an issue there. I've never, I wasn't sure what engineer. I'm sure that came up by an engineer, and I'm not sure what engineer who happened to travel through Berlin that day decided that was a great idea.
And I'd like to, go ahead,
Eric, I believe that it could have something to do with the agreement with River Bridge when they took a look at several of the intersections, South Street and Pleasant Street, and then also Sawyer Hill right onto Pleasant Street. And I think it's still, it's still something that they're not sure that, they've done the right thing. So, it might be something that that we need to talk about, or to talk about at the even at Traffic Safety Advisory and see what they have to say.
and there is a form on the website for the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. And although there's not a great checkbox to Bob's sort of point, you could fill those out and ask for some signs that you think are silly in town that could be taken down. So it's not just putting signs up, but it's also taking out things that aren't as relevant. There's a sign on 62 that after Highland that shows that lanes are merging down from 2 lanes to 1 when it doesn't ever merge down from 2 lanes to 1. It was put there before the road did merge at that point, but it doesn't anymore. And so that's probably an irrelevant sign that I think about every time I drive by it, and then I never remember to fill out the form when I get to my house.
Okay, can we have an official sign? We should go over the railroad tracks into Clinton where somebody hand wrote, be kind, use your blinker. Can we get that into an official one?
Well, as the liaison to the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, I have to say it's a great group. It's a well-represented group. It's a pleasure. These guys are working really well together. And Chief Shartner is doing a great job as the chair now.
Great. So Bob, if you want to take a look at the form that Scott sent and then get it into us, we can always plop it down on a future select board meeting to talk and process and bring Eric back and and get this all settled out.
Be happy to. The one other question that's been asked before, that light, the blinking light near First Parish and the store, the crosswalk light, blinky, 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 blink. You know, I thought it was supposed to blink when people want to cross. It seems to just be on the blink or something. But there it is blinking away. And I don't know what good it does if it's just blinking constantly.
Isn't that a highway? Because there's two. So there's one at the general store, and then right as you round the corner by, here I go, I'm dating myself, Kendall Lindsay's old house. Actually, Kathy Warben, I think, lives right there, right by the cemetery. It's a blinky, blinky, blinky. Did Chief Galvin order something to come in to stop, make it blinky, blinky, that you can just push the button and it would go?
I believe that we got the, basically the $2,000 version versus the $22,000 version. Ours are solar powered, and I believe the button ones need to be hardwired, which would require us to run power and be a significant undertaking to do it. I'm sure Mass DOT would have to be involved, as is a state highway.
For $20,000, I think I like blinky lights.
Yeah. And, you know, and to go back to the speed signs, as much as I like to permanently mount them, the post and solar panel are more than what the speed sign costs. And I believe the speed signs were $3,400 each. I think the post itself is $1,700 just for the post.
Wow.
And that's not installing in the ground either. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Blair. We appreciate you coming on over to the front and giving us a talk. So I'm going to open up the floor to Rebecca. You were the next one up with your hand. So floor is yours to talk to Chief Shartner.
Hello, it's actually Eric Von Geldern, living in Kendall Lindsay's old residence, in fact.
There you go.
I can tell you the blinky pedestrian light out front has reduced the number of average number of cars it takes to cross the street from 12 to 11. Sorry for the baby sounds there. He's just about to go to bed. What I wanted to bring up, which I know has been brought up in a number of forums, but I just wanted to bring it up in this context as well to make sure that there's still some light being shed on it. No engine brake signs, at least in the center of town, would be lovely. And if there's a process that can be followed to achieve that, it would be awesome to engage in that process if it has not already started.
I believe Chief Shartner or Chief Galvin was going to follow. I don't know, Eric, can you help me out here? I think he was going to do, we need to go to town meeting in order to do that or something.
Yeah, I believe we have to adopt a bylaw for limited engine use brake, limited engine brake use. Yeah, we can put up signs, but they're non-enforceable. And obviously we really don't want to be putting up signs if we don't have the bylaw to back it.
So I think that was something that perhaps might even be a thought for the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
Is there a process that needs to be followed to get that onto the agenda for the annual town meeting?
Would that be a citizen's petition or?
Remind us.
Yeah.
Right, because the select, although we're not debating anything as select board members, we're just sharing individual stuff, but the select board has the ability to add things to the agenda without having the town meeting agenda, without it being a citizen's petition. And so it could, in theory, go on a select board agenda, and if the select board agreed that that was a good thing, could sponsor the amendment for the town meeting.
Okay, noted. Is there something as a citizen that I can do to ensure that the select board considers this?
We have talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric,
I think at least.
Go ahead, Scott. No, go.
I was gonna say, talk to Peg, and she can make sure it gets on an agenda that we discuss, and then it can go. It will have a life of its own at that point.
Yeah, Eric, and that's what I'll do. You know, as the chair, I get to work with Margaret to set the agendas on Thursday afternoons for our meetings on Monday. So obviously this Monday is set. Yeah, we can't change it. The agenda's gone out. so I can put it up and get in touch with you and let you know what agenda that it's on, and then you can come back and talk to us and things like that. But I'll definitely get it on an upcoming agenda for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so somehow if we can get the word out, that way we know, I mean, we know it's more than just the center of town. There's more locations that need it. And, you know, that way we can encompass a large, you know, more roads versus just the center.
Absolutely.
But the
That sounds
timing
great.
is good
Thank you.
because we start setting the town meeting agenda in February.
Yep,
So that the timing is still good.
it's very good.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. If the board would allow it, I'd like to hand the phone to my wife.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, it's Rebecca. I just wanted to add the comment that I was very excited to see the speed limit sign flashing the speed at Central and Pleasant Street. I just wanted to add the feedback that I've found that the sign is a little fast upon either making the turn onto that road or coming from 495, and that it seems like it would help a lot more if it was 1 or 2 poles further into the center, because people still accelerate after the sign. So that was all on my end. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, so Chief, I'm gonna write that one down to you, and I'll get these things out to you to move the center sign a little bit in.
Yeah, we were just trying to make sure it's before the Clinton Savings Bank driveway and,
Yeah.
and National Lumber and obviously Carter Street.
Yep. All right, and then last but not least, Miss Poland, you had your hand up, so how can we help you this evening?
I just wanted to just agree with Chris about the reason why the don't turn left on at the cemetery was it did have something to do with River Bridge. The survey that was done there, that was just part of it for some reason. That's all.
Okay. Well, don't go too far, June, because you know you're next up, so stay at the big table. All right. Anything else for Chief Shartner? Again, this is not like a one-time only. We're only going to ask you once about your traffic concerns. You know, reach out to the board, reach out to Eric. You know, we're ears. We want to make this town safer too. We all drive through it, and we all, you know, have our pet peeves, whether it's coming up Linden and trying to turn that way to go to Clinton. Sometimes it's don't make eye contact, and the person with the crappiest car goes first, and you pray for the best. So it's true. You can't tell me that it's not true. Or coming down South Street to try and go, you know, that way. You can tell where Peg drives. But even, you know what, add it to the mix. Go up Linden and come down Derby, and welcome to Five Corners. That one, you know, you age about 5 years before you are successful to get out where you want to go. So lots of issues. All right. Anybody else in the audience while we have Chief Shartner? All right. I got nothing. All right, Eric, I'll get in touch. You know, actually what I'll do is some of the notes that I have, I'll get over to Mary. So when she kind of blends everything, we've got a succinct list.
Yeah, I'll try to find a town that has the engine brake bylaw and see what the process is. But I do believe it's a town meeting vote.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We appreciate you, Eric. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for your team and all that they do to keep everybody in town safe.
All right, thank you.
You
Thank
betcha.
you.
All right. So last but not least on the agenda, we're saving it for our ARPA fund chat. And so we have the finance team, and I think I saw Dennis in the audience. So if he can come on up to the front. Is
We might
Molly-
want to let people know what
Molly.
ARPA is. We've been saying that word at select board meetings for a while, but some
No.
people might not know exactly what that is.
I was
So
just
we'll
thinking.
let
that, Scott.
June do that. Oh, look at that. She's ready. What?
Yep.
I saw that you had your presentation ready to go this afternoon, so.
Well, that didn't mean I wanted to do this.
So no, welcome
Okay.
Dennis, Molly, and June. So the floor is yours to talk all things ARPA, what it is, what it does, and what are we going to do with it?
I'm actually going to go by Margaret's presentation that she had already for the selectmen's. I'm just going to touch on some of the things because I mean, a lot of it gets a little bit more in depth, but pretty much the ARPA that we hear a lot about is actually called the American.
Oh, June, you went on mute. You muted yourself. I think you leaned. Unmute, June. There you go.
Okay, let's try again.
All right, ready? You said ARPA is, and then you cut out.
ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. It was set up in March 11th of 2021, and it's federal money that is provided to relieve funds to the state, local, and tribal governments. There was about, I believe it was $350 billion that they had set aside. And there was different categories that this could be used for. One was response to the public health emergency, and the other was for premium pay for essential workers. There was also providing the government services to the extent of eligible governments because of revenue losses, which is what we pretty much fall under for this one. And it also had to do with necessary water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. We had actually received $339,126, and that was from the municipal allocation, and there was also county reallocation of another $629,332, which comes to a total available allocation of $968,458 that was available to Berlin. The state had put out a calculation. It was pretty much just all calculations as far as how to come up with the actual revenue loss that was based on Berlin. It based it on fiscal years 2019 through the calendar year of 2020. We actually had a separate auditor come in and actually do the calculations to make sure that we did it all properly and we got everything that we could. Because of the timing of the guidelines based on the revenue loss, we actually made out very well. We wound up getting a whole $973,805.96 was what we came up with based on the calculation that the state had. This way here, we wound up receiving the maximum amount of the revenue losses. There is a lot of this came from is because based on the timing, we were very fortunate because at the same time, we also regionalized with the schools. So they actually counted all of those funds as being a revenue loss, even though we weren't basing our actual budgets on it. But that was used as the calculation base.
Which is a great point, and sorry for interrupting, but it's a great point, June, because I don't want the people in the town to think, oh my God, Berlin lost almost $1 million related to COVID. We lost some money, yeah, absolutely. But you know what, 2/3 of that funding came from the schools not being Berlin anymore. Yeah.
I was thinking that it was approximately about about $500,000, give or take a few, between Chapter 70 money that we no longer receive directly, where now the schools actually received it completely directly. And also it had to do with a lot of grants that we had received, and also some of our local receipts that, because they base it also on a cost of living, it's not what they call it, an increase. It's a percentage that they base it on if things had been normal as far as what the growth would have been, growth factor, that's what I was looking for, that they actually also calculated it on. And we did lose some funding as far as like the meal tax and the hotel tax, because we actually had just started out with that. So there were some things that we actually lost funds on, but Margaret did a really good job. And I do have to say that when she planned the budget, as soon as COVID hit, we wound up, she put us into the whole town into a spending freeze. So, and all of the departments cooperated with it. So only the real bare bones necessities were spent at the time, which saved the town a lot, I feel, in the long run. And then we had also done a level funded budget. So that also helped us, even though we started to come up a little bit. So in a whole, we did really well. This was not an actual revenue loss, as in we did not overspend and we did not deficit spend. I'm glad you brought that up, Peg.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that are prohibited to actually use this funding for is for any type of debt service or to offset the net tax revenue reductions, which would mean tax cuts. So we couldn't just put this back into the budget because we have to remember this is a one-time funding source. So this is not a continual funding source. We can also cannot direct deposit this funds into pension funds or OPEB. We cannot use this money for legal settlements. And unfortunately, we can't just put it into our stabilization funds or to replenish any type of funding sources. I don't know if there's any questions as of yet.
I don't see any. I mean, I've got some, but I will wait until you get a little bit farther along in your presentation. Unless you want to ask them now.
Okay. Currently, we have received already $484,229 of this. And the additional, that's about 50%, and 50% will be received early sometime this year. I can't remember the exact date, but it will be coming in within the next few months. We we're accounting for this as a special revenue fund. It's treated a lot like a grant fund. It is not required to go to town meeting, but it is up to the board, the select board, to actually authorize any of the final decisions as far as what the money's to be used for. So it still has to go in front of the board. Can't just spend it however. And the period that it has to be spent from, it must be fully obligated or appropriated, not appropriated, to be obligated to spend be by December 31st of 2024. And we have to have it fully expended by December 31st of 2026. We do have to do reporting, and our first report will be due April 30th. And we have to try to make sure that we don't spend the money all at once, because otherwise anything, if we exceed the $750,000, we'd have to have a single audit. Let's see, what else?
So while you're looking, I'm going to ask probably some questions that might be on people's minds is, have we spent any of that money to date?
Currently, we have spent some of the money. We have put it towards social services portion of the Council on Aging and Social Service Director. We've expanded her duties and her hours because she seems to be doing a lot of work to help with people in need at this point. And we also did, like I said before, we did hire an independent auditor to come in and actually do the calculation, which was $3,000. Okay. So currently, those are the only two projects that we've actually started or paid for out of these funds. Yeah. Some of the examples that have come up are things like design engineering, funding for complete streets, the pedestrian and road infrastructure, examples around Route 62 corridor, Carter, South and Pleasant Street sidewalks. Also, we've talked about doing professional municipal facilities assessment, because I know the selectmen have also made mention of that as far as the uses of all the town buildings. So that could be something that could come out of here. Also, the talk was the possibility of doing highway barn solar installation, or at least for us to be able to look into that and see if that could come out of these funds. When we got together as the financial team, We did come up with some ideas as far as what the recommendations would be for best practices using these funds. We have to really stress that this is a one-time funding opportunity. And we'd really like to use it towards the highest priorities of what the town really needs at this point. We are definitely seeking the input from boards, committees, departments in the community to identify widely supported one-time projects only. We also want to involve the capital planning committee, finance, as key stakeholders as far as making these decisions, because it is such a significant funding source. We also want to try to avoid using these funds for anything that is reoccurring or operational type costs, because we don't want to use these types of funds to create expenses later on that we would have to support on a yearly basis after the fact. And we also, as we're finding, we start coming up with new ideas, we're finding that with COVID and everything that's going on as far as the economy goes, we're finding that there are a lot more grants and awards being available for other ideas, because like we were thinking about working on the infrastructure as far as like the bridges and things like that in town. And then we find out that there's a possibility of funding, so other funding sources. So we don't want to duplicate that. And I don't want to say waste the money, but we don't want to put this money towards something that we could actually possibly find a grant for or other financing sources.
But some of the things that I was most excited about when we come to list is that we potentially could use some of this money to make it us more likely to get some of those other grants. That some of the that infrastructure money coming from the federal government to the state, if we had finished like if we did engineering for the complete streets on Route 62 or the bridge up by River Bridge, we might be in a better spot to get those grants. And to me, those are some of the most exciting stuff, is use this money that makes it easier for the town to get other money to take care of other needs. Like potentially even like an architect for the Bullard House, so that we get some better, we're in a better position to get state grants to help our historic buildings in town.
You know, and Margaret has continually said, I know that the sidewalks, you know, heading past the library, they're not really sidewalks, they're just pieces of cement. You know, in order to fix them, the town needs to come up with, I think she said somewhere like around $25,000 to have an engineer come in. So, you know, if you can start to think that way, and the big thing that I want to stress is that this is not a free-for-all with the money. It's not like people are just going to come up and go, hey, I need 10,000. Oh, no, 50. There needs to be specific criteria that I'm sure that this committee, the Junes, the Mollys, the Dennises, the Margarets, who, if you're wondering where she went, is at Capital Planning. She just texted me. She's there. So, you know. Oh, are you kidding? I said, we're fine. June's up. She's like, yeah, forget that. I'm not coming back then. No, she didn't say it. She didn't say it, just kidding. But, you know, to like kind of start thinking along those lines. So no, you know, just because we have it, yes, we want to spend it, but we want to spend it for the betterment of the town and the betterment of the people, not just to buy something bright and shiny and new, because that's not going to happen, you know, with that. So if you have ideas, as June said, as Scott said, you know, Chris and I have said, send them into us and let's put them all together, you know, think outside the box. You know, one of the things that I came up with is, you know, think of town hall, that unfortunately we can't really use town hall, the kitchen, because there's an issue with the sewer. But gee, wouldn't it be nice if we could look at fixing that? Because if you can fix that, then you can open up the kitchen and then you can have more events there. And then you could have, you know, people come in and cook and give meals out to folks who may not want to go out to restaurants, you know, and do the Meals on Wheels. So kind of start to think in that way of where this money can be used for. And June, I think you said what, the end of 2026, we really have to have it spent by?
I think that's the ending. I think we have to have some sort of a plan in place. I think it's by the end of 2024.
Okay.
But I think it's just more so having the project set up and in progress, but we physically have to pay it out by the 2026.
Okay. So we have time.
So it's not something that we have. Yeah, we don't
rush.
have to earmark it now. We don't have to come, right. So we can take our time and and see how it could best benefit the town without costing the town money in the future also.
And,
Well,
and as
this
you
is-
said, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say, this is the other places that where projects could get exciting is projects where if we spend some upfront money, it lowers the cost of things ongoing. Here's a chance potentially to, we've done a lot of green community stuff, but like, improves energy efficiency or those solar panels. Maybe it's not just the highway barn, maybe solar panels in other place lowers the ongoing electrical costs of town, which is not only something great for the environment, but lessens the costs for a long time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, anybody, from the audience, questions, comments, thoughts that you might have? You've got a great panel here in June, Molly and Dennis, who can probably answer your questions, or at least, one of us can take them down and get back to you about this ARPA and the American
can also
Rescue
email
Plan
any of
Act.
us.
I wrote it
Yep.
down.
They can also email any of us also.
Yep.
Yep.
No questions from anybody in the audience on this? Oh, wait a minute, I just saw a hand go up. Who's it belong to? Meg! Can you please bring back Senator, look at that, Senator. Oh, that was a little bit, that was a Freudian slip. That was a Freudian slip.
Surprise, she didn't know that.
I know, surprise, Meg. Welcome back, Meg.
Thank you. You gave me a little promotion there briefly.
I
It looks
did.
like.
I did. Don't tell Senator Cronin that I just promoted you, but yeah.
The
we're
secret
good.
is safe with me.
Or Senator
and
Chandler.
the members that are here in the audience. No, I mean, I just wanted to comment too, it's really helpful, I think, for me I'm glad I stayed on to hear this presentation about what you guys are doing, and just keep us in the loop at the state level of, how we can help with either, distributing some of these funds at the state level, or, try to get in touch with our federal partners to see how it's going there. I know it's been a long process where the state has allocated a lot of this, and a lot of the funding that we have invested, especially most recently, will be kind of distributed through the competitive grant process. So we always I just want to make sure, and I know I say this on behalf of Senator Cronin as well, that whatever we can do to assist in that process or support your efforts to try to, be as competitive as possible, we want to make sure that we are getting, the resources we need from that pot of money as well. So it's just good to kind of be on the same page. So it's nice to kind of hear what the town is planning, what they're looking to do. And if we can assist in any way, even if it's just trying to kind of figure out what's even out there or timelines for some of this stuff too. Please feel free to use this as a resource. So yeah, not really a question, more a appreciation, a comment.
No, and we're grateful to have, you, that you are easily untouchable. I've emailed you, I've emailed Senator Cronin, and here comes the email back. So, thankful that you're here and, and honestly helping the town. So, thank you, Meg, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because it was actually from your presentation that you did at the Selectmen's, where I think it was you two had come out with that there was possibly funding sources for the infrastructure, for the bridges and things like that. So it's like, oh, okay, another idea that's going to be funded somewhere else. So it's like, yay.
Yep.
And for those in the audience too, whether you're interested or just curious and want some more information, both of our offices are happy to supply, summaries that we have, or, a simple explanation if we have it. So always feel free to reach out to us as well. I did want to mention one thing, since I'm on the panel right now, that I should have mentioned earlier, because the bill we did pass yesterday at the House does include some extensions for some of the remote town government stuff, which will be applicable to you guys. So current law, as we had passed it for some of these emergency rules, allowed remote town meetings up until April 1st. So that expiration date was kind of coming up quick, and that's been extended in the House up to July 15th. So the local boards of selectmen, local committees will be able to continue to operate remotely up until that July 15th date, where I would assume we'd reassess once we're there to see where we're at with COVID. And then remote notarization has also been extended to July 15th as well. So any notaries in the audience or watching this recording may have been wondering what happens as we're approaching that date. Well, you will be able to continue that remote practice for a few more months. And then the state primary also has been set to September 6th. So especially I know for town clerks, that might be of interest to you as well. So just should have mentioned that earlier. That was kind of the most recent update we had. And the bill is expected to go to the Senate next week. So we are anticipating a pretty quick turnaround with this particular piece, with the funding piece I discussed earlier, and some of this emergency rule extensions as well.
Awesome. Margaret, welcome back. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, just a question. Meg mentioned remote meetings of public bodies. Are there any provisions in the legislation for town meeting? Is there anything that's going to be affecting our annual town meeting?
That's a good question. I want to just double check the language before giving a final answer. I just don't have I have the summary in front of me, not the bill itself. Now it says, if you bear with me for one moment, and I know we're getting late.
No,
I just had it pulled up. Let's see. Yeah, you know, my computer's being a little slow. I will double check that for you. My understanding, all public meetings will be able to go remote. I think that would possibly include town meeting. Definitely include select board meetings and things like that. But
So open town meetings weren't allowed to go remote. Only representative town meetings were in the last round. So then, I'm just wondering if we can change things late, like we were able to.
Yeah, no, I know that's a good question. So I would anticipate that right now, all the laws that you're operating under have merely been extended. So whether or not there's changes to the town meetings itself, I will confirm that and get back to you. I just don't want to make any determination, especially for those watching, and cause confusion or excitement at, you know, the possibility of town meeting changes. But I think so. Yeah.
Everyone back to the school, bring your off.
It's a good question.
Stay here, get those lights. Yeah.
I know. So I'll confirm that for you, Margaret, and let all the board know as well, and we'll CC Senator Cronin so they know also. Like I said, it's the intent was to make sure, you know, boards and whatnot could continue to kind of operate remotely if they needed to while we're in the surge. So let's just confirm that on the town meeting itself, and that way you guys will have that information going forward.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Meg. I appreciate you hanging around and coming back to the big table.
No, it's great. It's helpful. It's nice to kind of hear the updates from all the stuff that's going on locally too. So I appreciate you inviting me, and I hope to join these again soon.
Absolutely. Great. We'll see you next quarter.
Thanks, yeah, Meg. Excellent.
All right. Well, June, is there anything, or Molly or Dennis, that you want to add on ARPA? I mean, June did a great job. I'm sure there will be more to come, you know, especially around, you know, hey, we've got 10 projects. So, you know, 10 people said blah, blah, blah. You know, what do we do? How do we rank them? Yes, no, why, maybe, when? I'm sure all that will come. Correct?
Send your emails to any one of us with ideas. Yeah, well,
send them to
I'll pass it along.
Keith.
Well, I'd be happy to pass it along.
Absolutely.
If anybody has any ideas.
All right. Margaret, anything that you want to add on that? You know, June did a great job. She really did. She pretty much went over your presentation that you shared with the board, I think, last week.
I know.
About that, and explained where the money was coming from and what we spent it on and what we can't spend the money on. So didn't know if there was any, you know.
No, I'm just going to echo just what I heard Chris say. It's extremely important for the community to provide feedback on what they feel are the most important needs in the community, because there's only so much money to go around. And so the priorities absolutely have to be set by the board. So it's going to require community feedback. I had a conversation with Capital Planning Committee tonight, same thing. They want to work closely with the select board too in helping to develop these priorities. And I know the Finance Committee will also want to weigh in. So that's extremely important.
Awesome. All right.
That's all I've got.
Well, we certainly had a lot shared tonight, and you know, for all those who came and you know, did their presentations and shared their information with the town, you know, absolutely thank you. You know, utmost respect. to all of you for giving up part of your night to come to Coffee Talk version. I have no idea what we're on. But if, well, 10, 11, I don't know.
After a while, you stop counting.
Yeah, we're just, it's just Coffee Talk. With that, so again, I want to open it up before we close. I know it's a little bit after 8, the night is getting long, but I don't want to close it down without giving the folks in the audience, a few more minutes to think, oh, hey, June said this, or, Eric said this, I want to ask for clarification. So, please, put your hand up. No question is silly. I've got a boatload of notes. I'll get them up to Mary, so that we can talk about them at future upcoming select board meetings. And while they're thinking, Chris, Scott, if you want to throw any like last minute comments, the floor is yours.
I would just say that, I love to get input from people. We're your representatives, and, if you feel like you've got something that you want to share with the select board, pick up the phone, shoot us an email. It's hard to do this kind of a job without getting feedback from people. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Meet us at the dump, meet us at the general store, the market basket, anything. Right. So, bang on the front door and come on in. But, oh, we see Mr. Blair. His hand's back up. I knew if I waited long enough, someone would speak. Mr. Blair, come on down. There he is.
A quick announcement or reminder, and that is that COA is offered to any senior household who wants one a bucket of sand. They ask, we will deliver. And the concept is, they haven't responded yet, but I think they will, is we've asked Lowe's if they could donate some of those 5-gallon blue buckets with their ad on the side. And then if we could go to the town sand pile, half fill them, would deliver them. We've got a few so far, but getting the word out is a little tricky since we don't have a town paper.
Well, Bob, I can put it in for the item. I can reach out to Jan. Jan at the Clinton item has been awesome.
I did actually on that.
Okay. She
said you should run it in the next week's edition.
Oh, perfect.
I asked today.
Well, is it
put it on cable?
Yeah, either cable or maybe we could get highway. We can talk about it next Monday after. Maybe get it out on the blinky sign, sure. In the center of town.
Sure. We have it on Berlin Neighbors Connect. We have it at 19 Carter. The
general store
church secretaries are going to put it in their bulletins.
Right.
So any source, and the item will have it next week.
Yeah, I mean,
any source is good.
Yeah, Bob, I know that Ed's been really good. He's got a bulletin board as soon as you walk into the general store. I know I've used them to put up some stuff for Victoria up there. So if you can make maybe a nice little sign and go in and see him, slap it on the board. So when people go in for, coffee, snacks, sandwiches, again, it's just another opportunity to get the word out.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
I just want to add in, I think you can call that effort true grit.
That's actually what our sign said.
Oh,
maybe that's where I got it.
True grit seniors.
Oh, true grit. Well, we can always load up the COA van with a bunch of buckets and drive around.
Yeah, there you go.
Dump them off. Okay. All right. Anything else from folks in the audience? Again, this isn't a one-timer. It's a one-timer that we're meeting. We try to do it every quarter. But as Chris said, all of us are always available, via email, via phone. Mary's been great. There's a call that comes in. She'll shoot us the voicemail, for that. So if there's anything that you need, want to talk about, don't hesitate to get in touch with any of us. Very approachable, Chris and I and Scott. And we can't forget Miss Margaret, all work extremely hard and extremely diligent, to take care of the town. So don't be shy. We're here for you. All right. And I think with that, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I think maybe we can close the meeting. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you for attending. See you in a quarter. We'll do this again, and stay safe, stay warm, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.